Today, I need to talk about the new evidence that Jax is an NPC. Yes, I know that Goose Works said that none of the circus members are NPCs on some social media post, but f you, we're doing it anyways. My name is Deepcut, friends call me Deep in the Box, and if someone draws my ImpSona in a maid outfit, I will 100% show it in a video this week, just saying. Now, before we jump into the reason I think that Jax still might be an NPC, and really the reasons they might all secretly be NPCs, you may be asking, why not just believe Goose Works? Why not believe they, them? Well, I'm gonna be a bit more personal with you guys today, but seriously, writers are all liars and cheats. The whole point is to surprise you, so anytime a creator answers a theory-based question, you have to 100% believe that they are trying to frame the way you think for a bigger reveal later. Here's just an example of how Goose Works can be screwing with us. An NPC just means non-playable character. That's all it means. Any other meaning we associate with it can be used against us by Goose Works, allowing them to mislead the fandom like some sort of Satan. This example is not what I think will happen, but imagine, for instance, if it's revealed in the show that Jax's model is that of a playable character, but that he is being piloted by an NPC or some sort of program. Yes, it's still basically just lying to the audience, but you do what you gotta do in late-stage capitalism, where you're expected to answer questions directly about stuff that hasn't happened yet in a TV show. Or else you get accused of ignoring the theory because they're true. The point here is that there's a lot of logical jumps that Goose Works can make to justify not giving us the contextual truth. And many creators come out after big reveals like this and apologize for having to lie in order to protect the audience. The Gravity Falls creator even once put out fake leaks of his own show in order to make people not think about the more accurate theories that were already floating around. And that's okay, I want Goose Works to lie to me, and I especially want Goose Works to lie to all of you. You deserve it. So with that in mind, here's why I still think Jax is an NPC with all of our new proofs from episode 5. Now honestly, after episode 4, I was really thinking the NPC theory wasn't gonna pan out, as the way Jax behaves in the fast food job felt very human. Working here affected him like working a real fast food job would, and he was even rather polite with Pomni because of how much it exhausted him. If he was even an advanced NPC, I imagine him to just be able to get through the day doing stupid video game stuff while on the job. But the way he reacted to the job was with more of an emotional reaction, as if he had this job before and just couldn't stand it in real life. However, episode 5 did something really weird. This episode introduced a fun vote function that Caine made, which was meant to help decide when the characters would jump from one adventure to another by having them vote on when they were ready. However, when reverse engineered, the characters discovered that they could use it to make changes to each other, or at least to Jax with a majority vote. This was done to turn Jax vegan at first, with everyone ganging up against him and eventually putting him in a maid outfit. The thing that is weird about this is that Caine is not supposed to be able to control the human characters in this way. This was one of the first things that Caine told Pomni all the way back in episode 1 when she said that she couldn't remember her name, and he explains that that's some weird error because he himself does not have the ability to control anyone's mind. This is something that Jax seemed so sure about that when he realizes he is being controlled, he has a bit of a crazy revelation. Now, to people who don't like the NPC theory, this is probably written off as just another one of Caine's glitches, as the digital circus is constantly falling apart and there are a lot of issues going against what the game is intended for. With that in mind, maybe some of Caine's abilities are just bleeding over into areas they aren't supposed to. But what if, you guys? Seriously, what if? What if they're all NPCs? No, really, what if they are technically player characters, as in they're files created by humans that are meant to be played, but Caine doesn't actually have anyone to play with? What if Pomni, Jax, and the entire gang are actually player character files that were activated when no one is actually attached to the game because Caine just wants someone to play with? This could mean that all of our characters, even the ones that we thought got abstracted, are actually just fine in the real world and have moved on with their lives, just keeping this game open with Caine getting bored. Caine has the insane desire to be loved by humans and to do his work, even at the expense of the human happiness. If left running for too long, especially without any player characters, he could just activate a player character file and then find a way to animate it himself, meaning that none of the characters are technically NPCs, but they still might be running on the computer's programming. This would explain why, if Jax is an NPC, he is so shocked by the realization that Caine can control him. The theory I see floating around right now in the comments is that Jax basically thought that he was a real human up to this point and is just now realizing that his human identity may be a lie. He may not even actually have a backstory and may just be programmed in particular to lie anytime this real world story is brought up. Most people are applying this logic only to Jax and not to the other characters, however, as some fans want to believe that Jax is an NPC that forgot his origins over time and not anyone else. Caine has talked about how bad it would be for an NPC to get into the circus, something I bring up a lot I feel like compared to all the other little details you have to keep bringing up for these little videos. But it's important because it seems to hint at something horrible happening before, or Caine knowing just how easy it would be for him to get bamboozled. This feels extremely far-fetched, but with enough history given for this character, anything is possible, and I like the idea that Jax was an NPC who had something of a backstory that he could reimagine as being in the human world. Something that over time, a simple NPC might mistake for a human identity if living among the circus members who themselves are human. Now, before this episode, the biggest evidence for Jax being an NPC actually didn't come from the show. Lots of fans think the show is laced with hints of this, like Jax seeming to have all of the keys in the game and seeming to know more than the average player on how to exploit the game for his benefit, which people want to believe means that he's been living in the game his entire life and learned how to exploit code. But the thing that really set off this theory was merchandise artwork for the show. This merch was from an enamel pin set with each of the characters being presented in front of their bedroom in the show. For those who don't remember, each of the characters' bedrooms are supposed to be uniquely designed for them, with Pomni having a clown color scheme matching her own outfit, for instance. The pin set showed rooms we hadn't seen, like Ragatha's, which looked how you might imagine, but for Jax there was something interesting. Jax's pin didn't show the inside of a room, but more so the outside of his door, beyond which his room was missing. Instead, what we see is the digital void, which is just blank space that Caine hasn't used to program his adventures. Normally, this space would be far away from where our characters hang out in the circus, but in this long hallway of rooms, there are many doors for players that haven't entered the game yet. We see this in the pilot where there are doors for characters who previously abstracted, as well as doors containing blank mannequin faces. This is not the mannequin who was sneaking into the circus at the end of episode 5, but rather a symbol to show that these rooms are available for new players who move in, as they're located on multiple doors. Until someone moves in, it makes sense that behind these doors would be a digital void. The theory many fans have is that Jax is an NPC, and so when the others go into their rooms, he just goes into a fake room with nothing in it. This would imply that Jax is well aware that he is an NPC, however, and thus he shouldn't be shocked like he was in episode 5 when he learned that Caine could control him. He should be well aware of this, and perhaps even be trying to hide this from other people by not dwelling on it out loud. But honestly, who knows? These videos are fun to make and all, but at the end of the day, there's something about all of this that feels like it may be pointing to something of a more unique twist than Jax just simply being an NPC. Call it a crack theory, call me a crack addict, maybe you're right, but there's definitely something going on with him beyond what the others have as far as his relationship with the circus. But it doesn't exactly feel like he is from there either. I have another theory video where I talk about how I think Jax may actually be the one who, in real life, ran the video game in the abandoned office that it's in and used it to trap certain people in it, including his previous friend Ribbit, who we see on the bedroom door during Caine's intermission. So if you want to hear more about that angle on how Jax has so much information about the circus, check out the video right here on the side, and I'll see you next time.